When you think about a competitive Minnesota State High School League event, theater might not be the first thing that pops into your head, but One Act Play is a sanctioned competition by the Minnesota State High School League. So we've come here to Stillwater High School to see their entry in One Act Play, a play called Hamluke.
It was written by Brad Erickson. He's a Twin Cities playwright and theater artist and educator. We've totally revamped the script. We've changed it and cut it from an hour and a half to 35 minutes. We've kind of changed the emphasis of it and the mood and the tone of it. But it is a mashup of Hamlet, traditional Hamlet, and Star Wars.
I am playing the role of Hamluke, which mashes up these two very iconic characters of Hamlet and Luke Skywalker. It's really interesting getting to play this partially because of how iconic it is and how there's so many different elements, some of them that are contrast to each other. Hamluke's stubbornness and groundedness versus Luke's kind of whininess at the beginning.
I play Lair Solo, which is a mashup of Laertes and Han Solo, which is kind of a really fun, suave, laid-back, almost Indiana Jones-esque character.
I'm Ensemble, which is I play a Plawa, which is a mashup of a Jawa and a player in the show, and then I'm also Stage Magic, so I help with tech on stage, and then I also do a few of the droids, like the Gonk droid and the Probe droid.
I play Gertrudala, which is a mashup of Gertrude, which is Hamlet's mother, and Padme Amidala, who is Luke Skywalker's mother. And she's kind of this more reserved character. For a lot of the play, she's kind of under the influence of Darthius, which is the Darth Vader character. She's under the influence of the Force by him, so she's kind of mind-controlled, but then she comes out of that and becomes this mother figure, and it's a really interesting character to play.
There is a strict time limit for competition.
If we're 35 minutes and 1 second over, we'll be disqualified. So we have to find the most optimal 35 minutes that shows the biggest arc and the most variety and possibility to show the judges.
I think the biggest difference is that time limit. Typically, in a lot of the theater that we do here, we don't really have a time limit. We can kind of take our time with pauses to kind of show our emotions. And here we have to be rapid fire, go, go, go.
You're always working as a team in these shows, but now it's there's a whole nother level of teamwork that has to be achieved.
Everything is shortened. The time that the play can be in is shortened. The time we have to rehearse it is shortened. Everything is just you're kind of going all the time. There's never really a part where you're okay, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to take this in. You're always working, you're always on the move.
The intensity of the One Act Play makes it more exciting because you only really do the play for about a month, and then you're performing, and you perform for 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then you're done. So it definitely makes it more exciting to be in the moment when you only have so much time.
We have 10 minutes to set up our set and everything before we perform. So everything we take with us and it needs to be transportable and fit in a 10 by 10 foot square and then set up in 10 minutes and tear down even quicker. We're always fighting time and trying to get the most out of our piece we can within that limit, and we work in our rehearsal process on getting that time down and making sure it's consistent.
There's definitely pressure once you're on stage and that clock starts going, because if you're on stage or off stage, there's only so much that you can, rush or go fast enough where you're comfortable.
In this competitive environment, lines and scenes can get switched and roles can change from performer to performer.
As harsh as this may seem, I think the purpose of the One Act is to win. So if you equate that to a sporting activity, it would be like adjusting your team or adjusting the plays that you do to win in a certain moment. So the same thing happens with the One Act, where we're only allowed 20 team members that handle all aspects of our production, from the technical ones to our performance ones. And within those 20 students, we have to find the best kind of competitiveness in the team. So we're always modifying and adjusting who's doing what.
It definitely forces you to stay on your toes. There is a lot of points where one single line out of a scene will get cut, either because it takes too long or it doesn't really add anything to the scene.
There's even more emphasis on the little details is one thing I love about it. In our production of Midsummer Night's Dream, there was a lot of moving parts. But it was more about focusing on the whole and how we can create this magical environment. And here we do that by focusing on each little thing and how that little thing can contribute to the environment.
Especially for like bigger paragraphs, you try to memorize the entire thing all at once, but that's very difficult when all of it changes and maybe your words are changed around.
Always be checking the script to make sure the differences, make sure you have them down in your mind, because if you are doing something that was cut, you might change the time and then it messes up the whole process. So you always have to have that accountability, responsibility, and all of that.
Tech gets added in very last minute because, as others have talked about, it's a lot of changes that happen, so it's not really helpful to add tech until you have more of a concrete idea of what you're doing. So we usually get added in like a week and a half before to start doing that, and it's definitely difficult because we have to do the 10 by 10, and so technician's job is really helping making sure that runs smoothly to get all the lights set up and measuring all of the set pieces on the stage.
The play needs to make sense, be entertaining, and fit all the criteria to move on in competition.
We start on a subsection level, and then we go, the top 6 schools go to the finals, and then from those 6 schools we pick one that represents our section for state. At state we just compete against ourselves to be starred or not by the judges, but based on those weeks and if we go on or not, and the feedback we get from the judges, and then we go back into rehearsal and kind of fine-tune things and readjust our team to, again, perform the best as a whole.
The play's the thing, but there's so much more to the one-act play competition than just that.
I think it's just taking everything with like a grain of salt. So when you're doing it in rehearsal, knowing that you just got to add a little more energy when you're on stage, that you always know where you are. Because if something shifted to the right this way at the competition, then you got to know that you need to shift over to the right that way just a little bit.
A lot of the stuff that we have to do, we do take off at home, or memorizing your lines, you don't have time in rehearsal to memorize lines.
Well, it definitely makes you think a little harder because you're always trying to figure out how is this going to be competitional, whether are different from when you're doing a normal play and you're like, how is this going to excite the audience? So you're always trying to do a little something different with this than you would in a normal production, where it's just you're trying to do what's best for the audience. Here you're trying to do what's best for the audience, but also what's best for the judges.
You're competing against, a Shakespeare, contemporary, all different types of plays. And art, as you know, is subjective. So there is a rubric that judges follow. This is more about the judge's opinion and the performances and what they like and what they don't.
At Stillwater High School, Justin Barrientos, NSPN.TV.